Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Helen Winter Textile Art. I'm Helen, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the wool I like to use in my projects, and also then to show you how I go about blending different types of wool for my artworks. So the techniques and the wools that I'm going to speak to you about today are exactly the same wools that I've used in this kingfisher artwork and most of my artworks, 2D artworks that I create. And to be honest, they're the ones that I go to for my 3D sculptures as well. So I just thought it'd be a good idea to run through what I use and show you, but also what I'll do is I'll link the several links underneath the description that will take you to a blog that I've written about the wools that I use, and also a free guide that I've created for you that shows you exactly about how I go about blending the wools. So I'll pop those down at the bottom, and I've also got some tutorials that show you how, and also I also run through the process in the books that I've written, which again I'll pop those down at the bottom. So let's get going. So for my art, I have over the years tried lots of different wools, and the ones that I like to use and I go to on a regular basis are carded wool and wool roving. And now the difference between those two is carded wool, as you can see here, is all of the fibres have been processed so that they're all jumbled up together and higgledy-piggledy. So this is absolutely perfect wool for beginners to use. It's great for felting. It's quick and easy to felt together, and it's good for 3D projects as well as the 2D work. So that's the carded, and then you've got the wool roving, or wool tops it's called as well. And you can see here how all of the fibres are very parallel to each other. And that is just how it's gone through the mill. It's been combed over carding drums, and it's all been processed so that it all goes in that same direction. Now, normally you use this for spinning, because it's perfect in the spinning process that you need everything to be parallel so it actually twists into a yarn. But I use this wool roving for particularly for feathers on my birds, and also for long fur on my animal portraits. So those are the two. You can also get carded wool in merino, but this is Corriedale. I personally like Corriedale, but as I say, I do use merino as well. And the difference, Corriedale is slightly coarser than the merino, but I do use carded merino as well, which is very good for my shading. You see down here, shading on this bird here. So I've used carded merino for there. It just gives a much more thinner layer for being able to do this subtle shading here. But the background on this kingfisher and the branch and the moss is all carded Corriedale, and you can get it in so many different colours. However, the background on here, I couldn't get the right colour, so I blended the colour myself. And that, if you can learn the technique, it just enables you to be able to create whatever colour you want. And in fact, all of the colours on this bird and on the background, I have all blended myself. So let's get going. I will start off with the carded wool first. Now, it's going to be in two different processes. I'm going to show you by hand first, which I will warn you takes a lot longer. So what I will do is I'll speed up the hand carded process. The hand carding, the blending by hand, I will speed up because it does take a lot longer. And this section here, I will show you how to do it with dog grooming brushes, which you can get widely from Amazon or pet shops, or you might very well have some yourself. So let's get going. So what you do is you just take the colours of your choice. I've chosen 3 different colours here. You can just have 2 colours, or you can have in my book, for the likes of the kingfisher, there are certain areas that I used 4 different colours. So really it just depends on what colour way that you want to try and create. And a lot of this is, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. You just choose some colours, blend them together, see what colour you get at the end of it, and you might just need to tweak it, adjust colours, like you might need an extra dark blue if you're blending a blue tone, or you might need add a little bit of green. So it's just a question of you playing around with it and seeing what comes up at the end. So what I've done here is I've just piled them into like a sandwich, and all I do is I pull them apart. Now, one thing I must say is when you're pulling them apart, the wool has what's called a staple length, and that staple length is the length of the fibre as it comes off the sheep. Now this is quite short, so if I was to pull this wool with my fingers close together, it's virtually impossible to actually pull that apart. But if I just pull my hands a bit further apart, so there's a decent gap, a gap that is longer than the staple length of the fibre that you're wanting to blend, then it just pulls very easily apart. And you'll see when I do the roving how the staple length on the roving is a lot longer, so I do actually have to make adjustments. But so you just pull it apart, restack it, pull it apart, restack it, and you just keep repeating until you get the blend that you want. Now, I also blend it across because I did that because this darker green was a bit too clumped up. So again, just layer it on top. And it could be that you want a blend that is not uniform, that you want it a bit, you want a bit more of one colour showing through than the other, and that's fine. You just keep going with this pulling, stacking, until at a point you just think, oh yeah, I like that colour, that is the colour that I want. So in fact this didn't take quite as long as I thought. Some colours, depending on what you're blending together, can actually take a fair amount of time. So that's actually quite a nice colour. So that's hand blending. You're going to use dog brushes, which is a lot quicker. These are the little beauties that you'll invest in. That they're only in the UK, I think they're £6 or £7 for a set. No, sorry, for one. You just get one. £6 or £7, but they're worth it. You can get carding brushes that spinners use, which are a lot bigger. They're too cumbersome for me, so I don't use them. These little brushes are perfect for the job. And you can also use, if you're wanting to blend lots of colours together, a big batch, you can also use a drum carder, which spinners use as well. But for this little needle felting project, these will be absolutely sufficient. So I've loaded up the dog brushes. Now the action that you use You want to just brush these teeth just very gently, one over the other. You don't want to, if you go too far down, it's going to be very difficult to pull it through. So really you're just brushing the tips over each other, and you'll start to find that the fibers transfer from one brush to another. If they're not, you see what I'm doing here, I'm just, as I brush, I'm just flicking this, my dominant hand up. And then what I then do is just turn it over, and I just repeat the process. So again, and also what I do is I go this way. So you can see here, so I'm actually brushing right across the surface. Turn it over. And just keep on moving those bristles one over the other. And then keep swapping it over until you get the colour that you're after. Let's just see how this is. And again, you can just check it as you go. I take it off the brushes and then see how there is, and I see how the colour is, and then I give a quick hand blend just to check the colour, and I'm perfectly happy with that. So there you go, hand blending and blending with dog brushes with carded wool. So now I'll do exactly the same with the wool roving. Now with this, you'll see that the staple length on this wool roving is a lot longer. So when I'm pulling these fibres, I'll do the hand blended first. You see how my hands are a lot further apart, and it's a little bit more cumbersome because you have to sort of give your hands a bit of room when you're pulling them apart. And this will take a lot longer. Also, it's quite a hot day, and this fibre is, I can feel it sticking to my hands because my hands are a bit warm. But you can see how just keep stacking it, keep your hands apart. And I find I use my palm as well. Just gives my fingers a bit of a rest because I've got a little bit arthritis in my hands. So by using my palm, I'm just giving my fingers a little bit of a rest. It's not a big workout, but I just find it helps. And if you find that there was some clumpy bits here, and then it's a little bit more awkward and fiddly than the carded wool, but it's still very, very easy, very, very straightforward. And you can see, right, this is just a little bit getting clumped, so I'll just take that out and separate it out a bit. So you've got control over the colour that you're creating. Keep on turning it around. Oops, it's getting a bit stuck on my hands. And I think I'm nearly there with the colour. I was going to say, just to save you watching, I was going to stop there. And I don't mind the fact that some of that colour there are some areas that are darker than the other, or not darker, but clumped with colours. So that's that colour. And we'll do exactly the same with the dog brushes. I'll just clean off this carded wool so that it's not all, doesn't get mixed up. Comes out very easily. Right, and then I'll just load up this brush. So I am just running it through, just spreading the colour just to give myself a bit of, to help the process along. There you go, and a bit of the green. And then, oops, exactly the same process. Again, I'm going to have to give myself a bit of room because that staple length is quite long. But I'm just taking it slow, just letting the brushes do the work. And it is, again, I'm having to give myself a bit of room, elbow room, because the strokes that I'm using are actually more exaggerated or are longer than with the carded. And again, I'm just flicking that wool, and you can actually just transfer it. As I did, I just transferred it over and then allowed the fibre onto the right hand brush, and then I'm just going to do it all over again. And again, I'm moving the brush, the top brush from side to side so that I'm picking up, transferring the fibres across the comb to help with the mixing. And to stop that, I have seen instances where ladies all of this bit gets bunched up and goes all knotty. That is because you're putting the combs too far down into the wool and being too rough with it. So you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm virtually, there's no pressure on those teeth at all, and I'm just allowing the fibre to comb itself through the brushes. And you can see there's absolutely no clumping up of the fibres at all, because I'm just being very gentle and I'm allowing the combs to do their work. So if I was actually to push these brushes down into it, then you would start to get clumping, and it would all start to become tangled up. And I'll just transfer that across, but you can see how it's coming into a beautiful blend. And in fact, this will be the last sweep across that I do, because I think I'm really pleased with how this blend has turned out. You can just see that it just gradually moves from the left hand brush onto the right hand brush. And if you I just did the turning over and then let the fibres transfer onto that right hand comb, and then I just take it off, and then again I'll just do a little bit of hand blending just to blend out that last little bit. And you can see it's more evident on the wool roving how the brushes make a much more even blend to the carded. So those are the 4 blends that I've just created, and you'll find that once you perfect the technique, you'll just absolutely fly with the colours that you create, and basically the world's your oyster with whatever you want to make. So I hope you found that useful. I'd love it if you subscribe to my channel and like the video. And if you have any questions at all, then if you pop them down below, and I'll happily answer them. And I say go and take a look at the links that I'll put down at the bottom, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Okay then, take care, bye.